Hi everyone, Marisa Stone here with Simon Says Social and the Systems Lounge, and I want to welcome you today to the 2018 Premier International Women's Business Systems Virtual Summit, where you get to learn all the systems that our speakers are using to get things done. So today I am super excited to have Naima Sheikh here to talk with us all about being totally Trello. Let me tell you little bit about her. So Naima is a digital strategy and implementation consultant who works with coaches, service providers, and other second career professionals to create and execute a roadmap to realize their business targets. And this is really important, especially as second career women, because sometimes we're not quite sure how to get there. She is your go-to person. She is a self-professed gadget and donut lover, which I absolutely love. And she speaks both geek and human. This is why we get along so well, Naima.
Yes.
So let's just begin at the beginning. What in the world is Trello?
Ooh, Trello is like the ultimate in gadgets, right? It's not a physical gadget. So what it actually is, it's a project and task management tool. And it's kind of like, if you think about a bulletin board that you may use, or like a whiteboard that you have in your house, and you have like a bunch of post-it notes or index cards and you get to move them around at will. That's what Trello is, except it's an electronic version of that. Yeah. It is one of the most flexible systems ever. It's been around for quite some time. And recently, it seems like everyone is Trello this, Trello that, Trello the other. And so that's why I wanted to come on to this summit and talk more about being all totally Trello.
Nice. I love it. I love it. So let's talk for a moment about why entrepreneurs should consider using Trello.
It's funny you should say that, because specifically for entrepreneurs don't actually still have systems that are already worked out. And so one of the reasons why Trello is so popular is because it's extremely flexible. You can take the boards and the columns and the cards and rearrange them in any which way that you wish. So it's not like you're taking what you do and then you're kind of trying to force it into a pre-existing system or a pre-existing workflow. Yeah. Trello is so flexible that it allows you to do what you want and organize your systems in any which way that you want by organizing these lists and these boards and cards. Now, entrepreneurs are also, more often than not, they're bootstrapping. Yes. And that's one of the things that's really great about Trello, because it's actually free. There is a paid version, there's gold and business and so on. But for the most part, 90% of the time, you're just fine with the free version.
Right.
And because it can be used in a variety of ways, you can use it as a task management system, as a repository, as a bunch of other things. It's great for an entrepreneur because it's like having a Swiss knife that you can kind of take it out and use it for a number of different things. And so for that reason, it's really flexible. And that's why entrepreneurs love it.
So who can use Trello?
Everyone. And that's another reason why I love it. Because you can use it for work. You can use it for home. You can use it for managing digital projects. You can use it for planning an event. In fact, let me just really quickly share my screen and show you what exactly I mean by that. So, all right, so here is an example of a Trello board.
Nice.
All right, let me just close this out here. So as you can see, this is a standard Trello board. It has some lists. It has some cards inside it, and inside of the cards, you have checklists. So already, as you can see, you've got this hierarchy of three things. You've got the board, which is the big one, and you can have one or more boards. You can have a list or multiple lists, and you can pretty much invent any new list as you wish.
Nice.
Right? On the fly. And then you've got the cards, which are kind of like the heart of it. And what's really cool about it is you can kind of move them around.
Oh, nice.
Really easily. And then if you wanted, you can kind of put not just, I'm just going to take a quick screenshot here, and I can go in here and I can just paste on. Oops, I had that one open. And just like that, my image is attached.
Yeah.
So as you can see, it's kind of like Pinterest, but with task management capabilities. So as you can see, it's very useful for a whole bunch of stuff. So you can use it as a content bank. You can use it to run your entire life.
Wow.
Or you can use it also with, client projects, whereby you collaborate with different people on the same board. So it's super, super flexible.
So what would you say makes Trello different from other productivity tools?
Well, first of all, because of its flexibility, it attracts a lot of people, like I said. So if you look at something like Asana, which is one of, I wouldn't say the Trello competitors, but just like you have Team Edward and Team Jacob, you have Team Asana,
Team Asana.
or Team Trello. And so I love Asana, especially since, they kind of introduced the boards as well, which they didn't have before. And they kind of took a leaf out of Trello's book to do that.
Yeah.
But where I find Trello to be superior is that you've got this ability to copy and paste things directly onto the card.
Yeah.
On Asana, you can't do that. On Asana, I'd have to take the screenshot. I'd need to save it on my hard drive, and then I would need to attach it.
That is true.
Which is kind of painful.
Yeah.
Another way that this is different than all of the other tools is that when you have a checklist, so for example, on this particular one, I've got a bunch of checklists. What you have for Trello is all of these extensions that other people have written that allow you to extend its power. So for example, on this particular board, I have something called Next Steps as an extension that's enabled, which shows me the checklist inside the card without me having to actually open it. Let me just go back here. Where did it go? So, okay, so here it's asking me if I want to see everything on the checklist, one per card, first checklist, I can say, show me all the steps in the checklist. Mm-hmm. And now I don't have to actually open the card to look at what's inside. Asana, you have to be on the task to be able to see the subtasks. Yeah. So that's another reason why it's different.
Yeah. And I like that you can just look at these right here and check them off and be done. So that makes it a lot easier.
Exactly. I can just click right there and it's done. Right. Okay. So I don't have to open the thing.
So let's talk about the main features of Trello. And you've alluded to some of them. Clearly, being able to have tasks and checklists and, add images to cards really quickly. What are some of the other main features that we get inside Trello?
So, see, now here's where I need to take a huge step back, right? And explain the setup, because a lot of people end up kind of tying themselves up in knots because of the flexibility.
Right.
So suddenly you have like 96 different boards and you have some cards that it kind of falls off. And then, you're spending so much time in upkeep and moving cards and says, so should I do this as a checklist or do I do it as a card? Or so you can end up tying yourself in knots. So if it's all right, I'm just going to quickly go back and see if I can pull up my presentation here.
Okay.
And just talk a little bit to just do a quick overview. Now, as we saw, we have something called a board, which is the big board.
Yeah.
We have a list, which is the column. We have the card, which is the heart. And then we have the checklist that's inside the card, right? So everybody knows we've got these pieces.
Right.
Now, there are two other pieces that are quite important in terms of categorizing and deciding how to structure your work on Trello. One of them is the team. Now, this is not used very often, but what the team allows you to do is to have like permissions. You could have multiple teams, and then the boards belong to a specific team. This is great for when you're working with someone else.
Right.
Or, if you've got a team that are all working on the same thing. The other piece is the labels. Now, labels can be really pretty because they're color coded and you can put names on them, and you can have as many labels as you want and so on. Again, this is great, but this is where people end up tying themselves in knots. For example, I'll go back to how they can tend to tie themselves up in knots. This is how you really should be using the components of Trello. Use team when you need permissions, right? So when you have only specific people that need to see that card and it's not just you, then you want to take it out of your personal cards and you want to put it into a team. Because when you do that, then you can better control who gets to see that board and who doesn't. You don't really want to give people access directly to one of your personal boards.
Right.
Because then it's kind of difficult to remember who did you put where, right? Boards are best for the big picture, not tiny, tiny details. So when I see a board and it has on it, you know, find image, and then another card says, make the image sepia, and then the third card says, put a title on the image, I go, no. I mean, that's too fine-grained, right?
Right.
Then we have the list. Now, the list is best in terms of workflow, so you're moving cards from left to right.
Right.
For example, if you're running a recruiting campaign, it's really great for something like that, where you can say, you know, this person, we've contacted them, we've set up the interview, we've had the interview, and you can kind of like walk them through a workflow. And it's also good when you want to categorize. So if you've got like a content bank, you can say, okay, this column is for productivity type of blog posts, and this one is for design type blog posts, and so on. The card is what has the actual work, and the checklist is, well, for checklists, right, that go under it. Now, what most people tend to do, and this is what when I go a little crazy, is they mix up the labels and the lists. So for example, I can have a card be in the list that says productivity, but I could also have a label that says productivity.
Right.
So this is the way to make sense about them. A card can only be on one list at a time. So it's a great way to use it. So it's a good way to kind of denote status. So something can't be in draft and in production at the same time, right? When you're working on a client board, you could have it, okay, you know, Marisa is working on this or Naima is working on this. You could have two different columns. When something can't be in two places at once, that's where you use the list. Labels are great for when it's something where you could have multiple labels of that. So for example, if I'm doing the finances for the month, I may tag that with business as well as home, right? Because it's finances and admin that are kind of going across the thing. And this is where I find people tend to just kind of trip up. They'll have too many labels, or they'll say, for example, and this is one of the ways in which I've seen content calendars explained many times, to say, put the label draft, then take off the label draft and put on the label, you know, editing. That doesn't work because you'll forget and you spend so much time faffing about.
Yeah.
So these are the two things to be really careful about.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I love that you've split those up, because I think it's really important to get up and running relatively quickly with your project management tool, because hello, you're trying to manage your projects, not manage the tool.
Yes, exactly. And this has been actually one of the things that are one of the courses that I have coming up, which I'll talk about a little bit later on, is how to, I'm kind of thinking about calling it Trello Rehab.
Yes, yes.
and you kind of like declutter the bazillion boards that you have so that it's a workable system. Otherwise, you're spending all of your time, like you said, managing the tool rather than actually getting work done.
Right, exactly. So one of the things you work with your clients on is using Trello to really have a complete and current overview of their life, their work, and their passion projects. Can you illustrate to us how this works? Like, I can really use this one platform for all three areas of my life?
Yes. Well, that's the biggest, that's another mistake, right? I mean, okay, look, I've done it. I've done that, right? So I used to have like, so my projects would be in one tool, my personal stuff would be in another tool, and then I would have like a grocery app, you know, that would have like my it's insane.
Yes.
Because then suddenly you're thinking, did I put that in Evernote? No, I think I put it, no, I didn't put it in notes. I wrote it down in my bullet journal. That's
great.
Right?
Too much.
And the same goes for task management systems. So what I have is, I'm just going to switch back over to my totally Trello board, is the one board that rules them all.
Nice.
Right? And the way I run this board is to have literally everything on it. As you can see, I always have, whenever there's a board, my first row always talks about how this thing is set up, and it's sort of like the reason behind it. And so one of the things that I would do is I would have my big rocks.
Yeah.
In the client project, I would always have like I don't have it here. Where is it? I usually have like a reference list at the beginning. But as you can see here, I have, oh, that's my content. I have work, I have personal, and they're all in here. And within each list, what I've also done is I've subdivided them. You know, so stuff that I need to do for the home, stuff that I do need to do for my family, and things that have to do with my personal development. And I can keep track of them by using different kinds of labels. Again, we are multifaceted, multi-passionate women. We don't do one thing. We have multiple roles.
Right.
And if you don't keep everything in one place, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because one day you'll wake up and you won't check it. And then something slips between the cracks, and then another thing slips between the cracks, and it just goes on and on and on. And before you know it, you've tied yourself up in knots, and it's all over.
Yeah. And I love that you can keep this all in one place. I mean, that is crucially important. You know, I mean, if things are not in one place on my work, you know, inside my workflow, I'm going to miss something. And when you factor in family and children and all the other things that you have to do, you don't just get to put on the entrepreneur hat and walk away from everything else. Like, you have to maintain the other too. So.
Yeah. It's not like you stop being a parent because you're, you know, designing a website for someone,
right?
Or you stop being an entrepreneur because you're taking your, you know, they have to be able to coexist.
Yes.
And you have to allow room for all of them to coexist. And like I said, to be your one trusted system. The minute you start to scatter, then you lose control.
Yeah, totally. Completely agree with that. Wow. This has gone by really super fast. I know.
Yes, it has.
I know we were going to be diving much, much deeper in the next interview, all about Totally Trello, but is there anything else we need to know right now?
I will just say one thing. When you're getting ready to set up your Trello, again, go into it with two things. Plan on reviewing it at least once a week. Daily is even better. And plan for it to capture your entire life, not just pieces. If you keep these two things in mind, your Trello project management, task management initiative will be very successful.
Nice. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Before we let you go, how can people reach out to you? Let's say they want to pick your brain a little more about being Totally Trello. They want to access some of your resources or perhaps work with you. How can they reach out to you?
You can find me at naima.co. That's naima.co. And if you add a / I can't say business BS 2018 on the end of it, it'll be a cute little gift for you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Guys, definitely click on those links below and access some of the resources that Naima is talking with you about today to help your process of getting to this place of being Totally Trello. If you are part of the All Access Pass, stick around because we're going to be taking a much deeper dive with Naima in just a few minutes into this idea of Totally Trello and how we can really utilize it to up-level our businesses and scale up our productivity. If you have not yet snagged that All Access Pass, click on the button below and grab yours right now, because not only do you get every single one of these live interviews that you are watching right now, but you get every single one of these much deeper dives that I'm taking with every one of our speakers, and you do not want to miss those. That is lifetime access to absolutely everything inside this summit. So make sure you grab that right now. Naima, I am so, so excited that you are here. Thank you so much for all you've shared today. And guys, we will see you inside the All Access Pass. Bye, everyone.